All right, we are live.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Sweat the Bet podcast, brought to you by OddsJam.com. Again, for those of you who are not using OddsJam.com, please go check it out. OddsJam.com is your best friend as a sports bettor. You're going to find positive EV alerts, easy line shopping. You're going to have an easy, basically a bet tracking history. So look, man, if you're not using that, you're basically just saying the sports books are going to have a huge edge on you guys. So please, please, please check out oddsjam.com. At the very least, sign up for the free newsletter, take a quick tour. The guy right here, Matt Modi, my co-host, and some of the other guys from OddsJam, they're willing to do one-on-one tutorials with you guys to show you and onboard you to make you feel like you understand all the tools at your fingertips. So check it out, oddsjam.com. I am Parlay Doc, aka Andrew Kim, and here with me is my co-host Matt Modi. What is up, Matt?
I'm doing great. I like how you said your Twitter handle and then aka your name. So basically, like Parlay Doc, also known as my legal name, but really I'm mostly known as Parlay Doc.
pretty much, outside of my family and my family friends at this point, people on Twitter, Instagram. Now that I'm getting into like sports trading cards on whatnot, to this like live streaming auction app, everywhere, TikTok, everyone just knows me as my handle at this point. So at this point, I guess more people know me as Parlay Doc than my real name, unfortunately.
That's hilarious. I need a cool nickname like that. So we'll leave it up to the comments. People in the comments, put in the comments what you think a cool nickname would be for me, and then we'll workshop some ideas and we'll see how that goes. That sounds fun. Just Matt is so boring.
And then for those of you who are joining, so what is up, 50 Ruby? Thanks for the viewers who are here for the interactive chat. And if you guys see me sweating my ass off during this podcast, just ignore it, guys. I am in Phoenix, Arizona, visiting in-laws with my family. My kid is out here swimming every single day for the past week. But I'm going to tell you, man, it is like 114 degrees here. It's like 115. The air is blasting, and it doesn't even matter. It's just nonstop heat. Like I'm from Chicago, and for those of you from the Chicago area, you guys know how the heat gets in July and August. It gets hot. It gets like 100, 105 sometimes, but this is no joke here, man. I don't know why we came here in freaking June. It's like
June,
115 freaking degrees where you're just baking, man. Like I was in the car trying to put on my seatbelt buckle and I scalded my hand, literally. It's just insanely hot.
That is insane. I will say that the show is called Sweat the Bets. People are just going to be thinking that you're sweating out you got some MLB bets going on or something that you're just sweating out.
I'm literally just going to be sweating my ass off in front of this, guys. So, all right. Anyway, so today, guys, what we are going to be talking about, we are obviously going to be talking and focusing on the NBA Finals and what could be the final game of the season. Hopefully the Celtics make it a good game. Maybe it'll be an exciting seven-game series, but it potentially could be the final game. So that's why we wanted to make sure we squeeze in this episode before the game started tonight. We'll be going over best bets going into the game, into the weekend, as we always do. So we'll kick it off with our traditional sweat, no sweat. So first off, I'll kick it off with my statement. So Matt, Wiggins. Okay, I know he's been a big, getting a lot of attention lately with some of his big games. But Andrew Wiggins, if Wiggins has just one more big game, okay? So regardless, so who knows whether Steph is off another game or not, or he has another one of his big 30-something point games. But if Andrew Wiggins can produce another huge game, meaning, let's just say, for an example, maybe 20 points, 22 points, 7-8 boards, and kind of lock down on defense, disrupting Tatum, he has a legitimate shot at taking the finals MVP if the Warriors can close this out. Do you think that's just a pipe dream, or you think there's a chance if he can have one more big game, and if they can close it out, whether it's this game or game 7, Wiggins actually has a chance at finals MVP, or is that just wishful thinking?
I think that's going to be a sweat. I think that's wishful thinking. I mean, like it's funny. Steph, like I know you're not saying that it should be, so I'm not. This isn't directed towards you, but like Steph has averaged, even with a down game, 30 points this series on insane shooting, insane efficiency. I think that the only scenario in which he doesn't win MVP is if like he totally craps the bed for games 6 and 7. The Celtics would have to win tonight. And Wiggins is like even better than he was last game in games 6 and 7, I think is the only way that there'd even be a chance that Curry wouldn't win MVP. But even in like, and I know, we'll talk about it in the meat and potatoes, but even in like a quote unquote bad game for Steph, he still had like 8 assists. He only had 1 turnover. He shot like 7 of 22, but he was like 0 of what? 0 of 7 from 0 of 9 from 3. So he was really like what? 7 of 13 from the 2-point field, which like obviously isn't good, but it's not terrible. So no, I think he would have to like really crap the bed. I'm talking like 10 points or less in 2 straight games. And Wiggins would have to 1 30-point game in there, another double-digit rebound performance for it to even be a conversation. But no, I think that's going to be a sweat.
How about if I say two 24-point games with a double-double in 2 games straight? Would that change your mind?
And what is Steph just assuming Steph still?
Let's say Steph gets a pedestrian 25, 26 points a game. So not a typical, dominant Steph performance, but, just a middling Steph performance. Not horrible, but he gives you 2 more average Steph performances. What do you say? Still,
no, I would still say no. I think 2 average Steph performances, I think is enough for him to still win the MVP. I mean, like, yeah, Wiggins was incredible in game 5, but I mean, the Warriors aren't even tied 2-2 if it wasn't for Steph in those first 4 games. Like, I mean, Wiggins had been fine all series. He wasn't like horrible, but I mean, Steph was doing everything in the first 4 games. And then the Celtics finally like made it a real effort to get the ball out of his hands in game 5. And that led to Wiggins having an awesome game, which he'd already been good before, but that just led to him being even better. So no,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. No, ultimately, I agree. I think for me, it was just a statement of my wishful thinking. Because if we go back a few episodes, I'd sprinkled on Horford on the Celtics side for Finals MVP, and I'd sprinkled some on Wiggins. So it's me and just my wishful fantasy. But I agree with you.
Fair.
I think ultimately, I think it's basically been like Steph versus the Celtics. I mean, from an offensive standpoint, to be fair, obviously Golden State's defense has been there, intermittently, but on the offensive end, it literally has been Steph Curry versus the Celtics. So I agree. I mean, even with that off game, he's been carrying the team.
Yeah, I mean, before game 5, Steph had, I'm sure you saw this, had better odds to win MVP than the Warriors odds to win the title. So basically saying it was more likely that Steph would win MVP than the Warriors would win the title, which I thought was he's been incredible, but I don't think there should really ever be a scenario in which someone loses the finals but wins MVP. Which is
has that ever happened? I'm just curious. Now it's always been someone from the winning team, right?
The closest was LeBron back in 2015. I think was the closest it had ever come.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got for me, man?
All right, so for mine, also related, and it's a sneak preview to my thoughts on the game tonight. But I think that I should say, my sweat or no sweat is we will get a game 7.
Oh, man. man. Well, to not hedge, I got to pick one, obviously. So if I had to lean right now with my gut, oh, man, I would say no sweat. I think there's going to be a game 7. I mean,
me too.
And I know I'm sounding like a broken record. Trust me. Part of me, I would not be unhappy because I'd be looking at close to $2,000 coming my way if the Warriors can close it down. But I'm just saying, put my feelings and my biases aside. And I'm just looking at it. I said it last game. I still feel the same way. I mean, it's I just from the eye test, and again, eye test is a poor measure, but it's just I feel like the Celtics still are just a more athletic and can be when they're in sync, a more kind of dominant team that could really impose their will, on the Warriors. I just minus the offensive end. I mean, obviously that's where they're clearly lacking. It's just they have a hard time sustaining their offense for 4 quarters. You just see that they just literally have mental farts where they're just shut down for an entire quarter. And really that has been their downfall, right? I mean,
if one quarter,
if they could just play a complete 4 quarters of just average to slightly above average offense and allow their defense to just do what it has been doing for the most part, I just feel like they've just had more complete games overall. And I know that sounds stupid to say because they're losing, right? I mean, they're losing, but I just feel like the Warriors have had key crucial breakout quarters and when they really needed it, those crucial moments. And I think that's to say, like, then you start bringing in the experience factor, the veteran
and that's
leadership,
classic Warriors,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, classic. Exactly. So, but I figure, you look at their record, and in my mind, I really thought they had a chance to take one. And yes, they were on the road, but I really thought they had a chance to take one last game, just because when you look at the trends after the Celtics have had a poor performance, they've really bounced back very well. And I think that speaks to their coaching. I think that speaks to their resilience. I think that speaks to the fact that defense travels. So I really thought it would have been a bit tighter. You saw them fight back, right? They didn't just give up and die. It kind of got away from them at the end of last game, but they actually came back, to their credit, right? So now I figure you do all the things that I just said, but now they're at home, right? So, and I think there is something to being at home in a must win, the energy, in the arena, role players. Again, this might be fallacy, but role players, tend to shoot better at home, tend to perform a little bit better. So are all those enough of those intangibles and X factors that's enough of the edge to make them eke out a win today to stretch this to a 7-game series? I'd say, yeah, I think there is a chance. If I have to pick one, I would say yes, that there's a good chance that they might take this one and stretch this to a 7-game series.
Yeah. I mean, we're in agreement there. I know it's a sneak preview based on how I feel, but yeah, I feel like the Celtics. Oh, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said. Being at home, role players tend to play better. I have a hard time believing the Celtics are going to lose 3 in a row after never losing 2 in a row the first 3 rounds of the playoffs. I think that they're a proud bunch. I think like every test that they've had in the playoffs, they've shown up for. Obviously, they haven't lost a series yet, so obviously that's true. And I just think being at home, I think, is going to give them enough of an edge. And like you said, I mean, like watching the game, it feels like it can sometimes be so hard for the Warriors to generate offense. Like if either Steph makes an insane shot, or I guess in Game 5, it was like they finally started triple teaming Steph, and then that left Wiggins open. Wiggins had a great game. They had 5 players in double digits, with Draymond getting 8, which for him is like getting 40.
That's true.
But then when the Celtics are on, you just think that the Warriors can't do anything, So it's just an interesting, visually watching it. It does. I agree with you. Feel like the Celtics have been the better team. They just sometimes crap their pants in the fourth quarter. Like they've lost the game in the last 2 fourth quarters. I mean, especially that game 4 loss really, really, really is going to haunt them if they end up losing this series, because they had it. They were up. They had it. And then even last game, I mean, coming down from 12 points to begin the third quarter to taking a 5-point lead, with 6 minutes remaining in the quarter, and then ending the quarter somehow losing, just some brutal losses for the Celtics. So either way, yeah, I'm agreeing with my sweater no sweat that the Celtics will end up winning tonight, and this will go to 7.
Okay, so let's move on to the main segment of our show, the meat and potatoes. And I know we've already kind of been getting into it a little bit, with our sweat, no sweat. But let's very quickly, why don't we just do some quick, Game 5 takeaways? We've already touched on it a little bit, so I'll be very brief on mine. Basically, my biggest takeaway from Game 5 was it was just a wasted opportunity, a huge wasted opportunity for Celtics. And then I'm not going to berate it to death because we already touched on it, but you basically had that kind of, again, it wasn't the worst. Like Matt was saying, I think people they always key in on Steph's 3-point shooting, right? So obviously you look at the threes and it was horrific, right? But it wasn't terrible from the mid-range game, and he actually got a few drives to the rim. And I think people always forget that he actually does attack the rim. And obviously you see the amazing crowd wooing, like Robert Williams blocks that are huge, but still he gets some though. Despite that, he's willing to go up and challenge the bigs. If they're going to give it to him, he's willing to take the open lane. And he was okay. He was okay from from 2-point range. So, but still, you get a pedestrian performance from Steph Curry. You have him basically abysmal and can't hit anything from beyond the arc, and you blow the game, right? I mean, basically it was there for the taking. That's what you've been waiting for, a game, because basically Steph Curry has been beating you. He's literally been the guy beating you this whole series. You finally get a pretty off game from outside shooting, and then you don't come away with the W. So it's just that was my biggest takeaway, is that has to sting if you are a Celtics fan. Basically, it's just that was the game you wanted to steal right there.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of game one when the Celtics won. There's like two sides to the coin. Like if the Warriors are going to score, I mean, how much do they score? Over 100 points in a game where Steph only has 16. Like, of course, that means other people are going to step up. So I think, I view game five kind of similar to game one of the series, where that I almost view that as an outlier. Like, you're probably not going to get 8 from Draymond again. You're probably not going to get 15 from Gary Payton again. Jordan Poole, I mean, who knows? He could give you 15. He could give you 2. And then Clay had 21. And Clay is, again, also pretty hit or miss. And then Wiggins, obviously, with his 26. And just to dig into the Wiggins' 26 points, I didn't realize this until I looked at the box score. He didn't make a single three-pointer. All 26 of his points were not from three-pointers. And he only made 2 free throws. So he had 12 two-point shots and 2 free throws to get to that 26. Like, to me, that's also an outlier. So Steph could have his classic 40, 45 points, but if you hold Peyton and Jordan Poole to single digits, you hold Draymond to 2 instead of 6, Wiggins gets 15 instead of 26. I mean, you'll take that if you're the Celtics. So I almost felt like, people were complaining about their defense in games 1 through 4. Like, why are you not stepping up on the Steph pick and roll? Why are you giving him so much space? And like, why are you let anybody else beat you? But then we see what happens. Like, when Wiggins gets easy looks, when Poole had that crazy buzzer beater, whatever. But when like Gary Payton gets easy looks, when Clay's able to get open from 3, that's when the Warriors are at their most dangerous. Not when Steph, going 7 of 15 from 3. So yeah, I kind of think game 5, you don't necessarily throw that away because obviously it was important. But I think moving forward, that will be more of an outlier than what will happen in games 6 and 7, I think, regarding game 5.
Yeah, and speaking on Poole, if you really look at it, you mentioned one of them. I think he actually had 2 kind of quarter-ending buzzer beaters. So if you really think about it, right? I mean, one of them was a 3. I can't remember if the other was a 2 or a 3, but basically, even when you look at his box score, like 5 or 6 of the points, I mean, were these kind of just Hail Mary kind of buzzer beaters, right? So you have to even take that with a grain of salt with his performance. So. And he has been, his minutes have been somewhat limited this series, and he has been somewhat of a defensive liability where he's losing some minutes to Gary Payton of all people.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what Poole can do, because I know a lot of fantasy people, they're kind of on the fence today about Poole, like whether is this his breakout game or does he continue to be somewhat limited because of the defensive issues. So
yeah, I would probably. I don't have any bets in, but I would probably fade him, I think.
Yeah, I would lean toward that too. I've seen a few out there that are pretty popular. Like, people have been either on his under PRA, under on points, or under on points plus assists. But I haven't. Yeah, I just I hate unders. But
it is boring.
If I had to pick an under, yeah, I'd probably lean on the under for Poole as well. So
yeah, another reason why I kind of a little more faith in the Celtics is Derek White had exactly 1 point. He made a free throw. He went 0 of 4 from the field. Jaylen Brown went 0 of 5 from 3, 5 of 18 from the field. So while you did get your 27 from Tatum, it was almost like the opposite of the Warriors. I mean, they got 18 points from Brown isn't terrible, but you need him to get 24 if you want a chance. And then they got 20 from Marcus Smart, which is obviously great, and that won't happen again. But the rest of the team, they were terrible. So I think being at home, kind of talking about those role players stepping up, I think is another reason why I'm confident in the Celtics money line tonight.
So on the topic, because I know he's your favorite player, Marcus Smart. I'm curious, okay? Because obviously, in an ideal world, right? I mean, you want him to go off for 20 points and have, a bunch of the peripherals in the box score, but he really didn't. He had points, but he didn't really do too much else. I mean, obviously, you can't see some of the intangibles on defense, but I'm just curious from your take, knowing this is a survival must-win game. Obviously, in an ideal world, you get all the stats. You get points, rebounds, assists, he facilitates, etc. But in your mind, in terms of like the pivotal role that Marcus Smart could play for the Celtics tonight in a must-win, back against the walls, Do you want him to be in kind of a score first mentality? Like, do you want him to be, would you rather have him get 20 points and like no assists, no boards? Or would you rather have him end up with 4 points, but he's doing all the other stuff? He's getting you with the assists. He's facilitating, getting 4 or 5 boards, lockdown defense, and expending his energy there. Like what would you prefer if you were on the Celtics side? Seeing
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my biggest problem for Marcus Smart, like when he has those 20-point games, that's awesome.
Exactly.
So my question is, in that 4-point scenario, is he shooting 9 3? Is he going 1 of 9 from 3, or is he actually not taking those jump shots? Because that's always been my biggest issue with Marcus Smart. And to give him credit, and I'll let you go after, he has shot pretty well from 3-point range in this series. He's shot 40% from 3, which is well above his average. He's had multiple games where he's had, I mean, game 5 was one, game 1, and then game 3. So the 2 wins, and then game 5. He's been pretty good shooting the ball. So I'll give him credit there. But even, I think this was game 4 when Marcus Smart took back-to-back 3-pointers when, like, in the closing minutes of the game. Yep. I remember we were texting, or maybe we were tweeting about it. Like, dude, what are you doing?
Yep.
So that's always been my biggest problem with Marcus Smart. So I think of the two, if we can have one of those games where he's got like 4 steals, 6 assists, 7 rebounds, 4 points, but only on like 4 shots, I think that is probably the best scenario of Marcus Smart. The problem is he thinks he's Steph Curry, so he shoots a ton, and then I mean, he's more miss than hit. And I mean, while he's been good this series, I think, he's been kind of ping-ponging back and forth. So hopefully this isn't a bad game being at home. But he could very well lose you a game in the fourth quarter because of those decisions. Where like he almost lost it in game 7 against the Heat. He did lose it against the Bucks. We forget about that. He lost that one game against the Bucks. And then he lost, I mean, I wouldn't say he lost game 4, but he contributed to that fourth quarter collapse with those just ridiculously dumb shots in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, no, you answered my question. I was going to say 4 or 6 points on actually efficient shooting. So if he only, if he was shooting 50%, something like that, not taking high volume and getting 4. But yeah, so you already answered it. So if he's shooting efficiently, picking his spots, getting 4 to 6 points, but getting all the peripherals, it sounds like you feel like that's really more of what's going to help the Celtics in the long run in crucial moments. So, okay.
Yeah. I think if you're the Celtics, you want Tatum and Brown getting 50 points combined.
Sure.
You need one of Smart, White, Horford, Grant Williams to get like maybe 2 of them to get double digits, like that. And then you can make your way to 100 points and then hope your defense is good enough to hold the Warriors below that number. I think that's the path of victory for the Celtics.
So on that topic, let's run through it quick so we could spend a lot of time today on bets and fielding some questions from the audience here. So give me your keys to victory for both sides. And then my follow-up question after you're done with your keys to victory for you is, should you, me, or the audience here, should we trust that the bench is going to get any minutes at all for the Celtics tonight? Or is it really you just ride or die with the starters because this is a survival must-win game? Should you, mine is obviously unders, but I'm saying if you're looking at overs, should you even bother at all trusting that any of the bench are going to get significant minutes, or you just ride the starters for this one? So what are your keys to victory? And then answer the trust question.
So I actually have a question for you. It's kind of off topic, so I'll answer your question, but I just am curious I was having a conversation with a friend, which prompted me this question, but I'm just curious what your overall thoughts on Tatum are. Because I feel like we've seen the highs in terms of opinion. We've seen the lows, but I feel like going into the finals, everybody was saying, Tatum's the next superstar. He's now a top 5 player in the league. He's making the leap, all that stuff. He's kind of struggled in the finals. So now we're hearing the opposite, saying Tatum's no one's going to say that he sucks, but Tatum's he's not top 5. He's top 20. He's an inefficient shooter who can't get to the line, who doesn't really get to the rim at all. So now people are kind of saying that he's overrated, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. But I'm just curious about your overall thoughts towards Jason Tatum in general.
Tatum, I'm a Tatum fan. I think you just look at the guy, and obviously, if God were creating a basketball body, he has one of those prototypical.
Yeah, he does. He's got the LeBron, the Giannis. Yeah.
You've got the height, you've got the athleticism, could he bulk up a little? I don't even know if it's in his best interest to, but he's got strength, he's got size, he's got speed. I do think, I mean, yeah, he's not the most efficient shooter, but I think he's got a pretty damn good shot. And I think with time, I think you give him 1 or 2 more years, hopefully, like that's what he'll take to the next level to just become a more efficient, mid-range outside shooter. I actually agree with his coach's comments for, I think it was somewhere around game 4, after they had a win or was it game 3? Where basically he was saying, if anything, from a maturity standpoint, he's spending too much energy trying to bait people into fouls, and he should just go finish. And if he could just finish, he's just going to be a more efficient scorer. He's going to get more free throws when he's just in the mentality of, I'm going to take it to the rack. And then if contact happens, it happens, versus I'm going to contort myself. I'm going to double pump, triple pump, hoping to induce contact. So I think those are the things I think will come with maturity and hopefully listening to good coaching. But I think he's legit. I mean, I think we're seeing some of the immaturity. So, and to be fair, I mean, I think it might be a combination of immaturity. It may be a combination. He's just tired. I mean, if you really think about it, to be fair, right? How many 7-game series have they just gone through? I mean, they went through a grinding series, man, grinding series. It was no easy task to overcome the Bucks, the Heat. I mean, just like they went through a grueling series, and they basically have been riding him and Jaylen Brown. To be fair, the two of them have logged tons of minutes, right? So sometimes when you see him fade in the fourth, look, to be a critic, I mean, the great ones just find a way. You find a way, right? So to be fair, like, he has to figure out how to just, whether it's pulling a James Harden and flopping and even though I just said that's not what he should do, but like if you're dog tired, I don't know, man, find a way to just get to the line somehow.
Yeah, like I would say Jimmy Butler is a better example than James Harden.
Jimmy Butler, whatever. Pull a Jimmy Butler, whatever. But then on the other side, I just think he's tired, man. It's like at some point, like him and Jaylen Brown, the two of them have to be tired. They have to be tired, right? So whether it's this year and he rises to the occasion, because look, how much would the narrative change if the Celtics just take the next 2, right? I think that's a big if, but I mean, let's say they take tonight, let's say they go on the road, let's say they take game 7, the narrative is going to flip again to the other side. Everyone's going to say, oh my God, Tatum has arrived. Right? I mean, so I think that's how fickle the audience is that's, and to be fair, a championship makes a big difference because look at people's narratives for the Malones and the Stocktons and the Barclays, right?
Look at how much differently we view Giannis after last year.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, I mean, he's also does seem to be like there does seem to be something up with his shoulder. So I'll give him credit there. Like he's been grabbing at it. I think it might just like it's a stinger, which I don't know a ton about that injury, but maybe it like gets worse as the game goes on. I would say, I mean, Tatum's obviously incredible. He's very good. I think my biggest issue with Tatum, there's 2 of them. And we've talked about this before. He falls in love with the tough shot. Every time I watch him, I'm like, well, that's a tough shot. Well, that's a tough shot. Like for me, like just from the eyeball test, like it's hard for me to view people like Tatum, who his whole offensive game is predicated on making contested turnaround fadeaways, step backs, side steps from 3. Like he doesn't really get to the rim, which he did in game 3, which was like, we gave him props. So that was like the best performance I think probably he had in the finals. I mean, he was awesome in game 5 as well. But in game 3 was like really when you saw the light switch, flip switch, whatever, the light turned on, whatever metaphor I'm trying to say. And then he also doesn't quite have the passing ability that you would hope. I would say he makes the correct reads, the easy reads. He can kick it out. He can, if he drives, he can kind of do the loop around pass to the guy in the back. Like he makes some good reads, but it's not an advanced passer is how I would describe it. So he doesn't necessarily make his teammates that much better on the level. I mean, nobody's like Chris Paul, but even like a Jimmy Butler, I think if he could get to that much of a facilitator, I think would be a big step for him.
Okay, before you move on then, who's the better passer since we're comping, Giannis or Tatum?
Oh, I think Giannis is the better passer.
Okay.
I wonder how much of that is Giannis, like he gets so much more attention under the rim because he's so much more physically imposing, but I see Giannis making a lot better reads than I see Tatum. I think that's a good comparison though. So anyways, that was a random aside I want to talk about with Tatum. To answer your original question, so it was keys to victory. And then what was the second part of it?
trust? Should anybody, if anybody's riding the over, because I know for the unders better, it's an easy answer. Then yeah, I think you probably
Right. Well,
smash the others. But
anybody not a starter play essentially.
Do you trust any? Yeah. Do you trust that the bench, anyone on the bench will get any significant minutes on the Celtics specifically?
Yeah. So the keys to victory, I think, is kind of what I said before. You have to get minimum 50 combined from Tatum and Brown. You just have to. Like, it has to be 25 each, 30, 20, 30, whatever that number is. It has to come from Tatum and Brown. And then you need. So another key to victory is Robert Williams' knee. Like, he's now listed as questionable. I think that there's been a lot of weird chatter about his knee. Like, some days he wakes up and feels great. Some days he wakes up and feels terrible. Like, he's had to get it drained multiple times. So if he's not 100%, I think that's going to be really difficult for the Celtics to come back from. Just a side note. But like, aside from Tatum and Brown, who, if they don't go off, I think you're toast. And you just need one of Smart, Horford, I mean, I guess Robert Williams, Grant Williams, Derek White, one of those 7 to give you like 30 combined, if not more. I mean, I guess that's only 80 points. So I probably need to tweak my numbers a little bit, but you get my point. Like, you need probably two of those 3 or 4 to have good offensive games. And then also the turnovers. I mean, like, Jason Tatum, 4 turnovers, Jaylen Brown, 5 turnovers, Marcus Smart, 4 turnovers, like 18 total. If they have more than, I would say, probably 12 turnovers, they're probably going to lose, because how hard it is for the Warriors in the half court to generate offense. The Celtics just continually give them free buckets. So I think the turnovers is the main thing. Regarding the starting lineup, so I was looking at the numbers in game 5. So everybody in the starting lineup except for Robert Williams played close to 40 minutes. Tatum played 44. Jaylen Brown played 44. Smart played 39. Horford only played 32. And then of the bench, Derek White played 20. Grant Williams played 16. I think that's probably what they're going to do. Maybe, I mean, Tatum, I could see him playing like closer to 48, if not like, 46, maybe give him like a minute rest in the second and whatever quarter. Same thing with Brown. I think they probably go 46 to 48. But I do think that Grant Williams and Derek White will get legitimate playing time. I think they'll get legitimate playing time. So I think it'll be a 7-man rotation.
Yep.
To answer your question.
Yeah. No, I feel like I agree with you. I mean, we're stating the obvious that Jaylen, Tatum, they got to get you, I don't know, 50, 55, somewhere in that range, minimum.
Yeah, minimum.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who's it going to be? I mean, is it going to be White? Is it going to be, one of those, magical Horford nights where he could turn back the clock again? But someone's got to break out, and whether it's one or two, I feel like 2 guys minimum have to get you like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
To supplement that. So it's really going to be a matter of who can step up in that role, minus, Tatum or Brown just going nuclear somehow and dropping like 40 something or something like that. But I agree, So, and to your point about, Tatum, I almost, again, not that Wiggins is the best example, but I appreciated the fact that even though part of it was, Curry, was getting double, triple teamed at one point last game, and Wiggins was getting easy looks, there were times where he didn't settle. Like, he didn't settle for that corner 3, or he didn't settle for like that angle 3. And you'd see him just dribble around and just get to the tee or the free throw area and just take an easy mid-range. And, for him, it almost looked like he was doing a layup at times. And,
yeah,
that's, I'd like to see Tatum do a bit more of that than a fadeaway, 21 footer, you know what I mean? So I feel like if he could incorporate some of that into his game, that may be another thing. And in addition to the sharper and crisper passing, finding more ways to incorporate his team, and just even being a leader and just, telling his team not just to clear out, but like demanding them do just more, and part of that's on the coach, but like just being more vocal about needing them to do more, off the ball movement to find them, so that, he knows he is going to get the attention. Right. So, but all those intangibles, we'll see. I mean, let's see if he rises up to the occasion tonight. If those role players can kind of step up. So ultimately, I mean, we kind of talked about the Celtics. I mean, for, the Warriors, I'll comment more on them is, are we going to see Game 6 Clay? Right? I mean, that's kind of been the joke, right? I mean, that's kind of been the running. Is today another one of those Game 6 Clay Thompson games, right? So look, I feel there's got to be positive regression back to the mean for Steph Curry. I don't think he's going to go 0 for a million again from 3-point line tonight.
I agree.
So you figure Steph's going to get his, I don't know, 26, 28, 30, somewhere in that range, 32 maybe. So tonight is who's it going to be? And I feel like the only real, viable answer typically is like Clay has to have a good game, right? I mean, Wiggins, like you said, that's more of those outlier games where he has one of those huge games. So I feel like this one falls on the shoulders of Klay Thompson. Is he going to show up tonight, or is he going to have another rough game? He's been okay at times, this series. So, but they need better than okay today, where the energy is going to be high. Celtics are going to come out guns a-blazing. They're going to give it everything they have. So I feel like you need one of those 24, 20, 25 point games from Clay. And I think if he could do that to supplement a typical Steph Curry night, then that might be tough. That might be tough for the Celtics to keep up with. So for me on the Golden State side, in addition to the obvious things we say at every episode, limiting turnovers, not doing the boneheaded ones. Sean Blaze 20. I agree with you. Clay needs a mid-20s game if the Warriors legitimately want to close this out on the road. So I think you need that. I think you need Draymond to keep his head on straight, not get caught up in the theatrics, and you need like a double-double, like not with points, I'm saying, but like you almost need a Dre double-double with rebounds and assists, like an 8 and 8 at least. I feel like you need an 8 and 8 from him. You need Clay 24, 25 and a regular Steph game. And then that may be enough with Wiggins doing some of the dirty work. And that may be enough of a formula for them to maybe steal this one on the road and close it out and be champs again. So,
a couple of things there. So I think Draymond Green's stats in game 5, 8 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, I think is totally fine. If he can do that again, I would say that's a success. For Clay, he's been so hit or miss. I was watching game 5. I didn't really think, what an awesome Clay game. But then you look at his stats. He had 5 3-pointers. He had 21 points. And he had some monster shots in that third quarter. Like when the game was looking like it was starting to slip away, it seemed like Clay had 2 massive threes in that third quarter, which I thought was big. To the Wiggins point, I agree. I think game 5, as good as he was, is more of an outlier than anything. Scoring 26 points on not a single made 3-pointer and only 2 free throws. You're not going to get that again. And just from some of the shots he was making, I felt like there's maybe 3 or 4 possessions where Wiggins, like nothing was going on, that half-court offense, Warriors couldn't generate anything. And Wiggins just hits a contested 2-pointer, which was like just totally bailed him out. That I think you're not going to get that as many times in game 5 or in game 6 as it happened in game 5. Which I think is one of my concerns with the Warriors specifically tonight. But I actually do, if the Warriors are going to win, I'm with you. I think it's got to be Clay. I think instead of 5 for 11 from 3, I think it's got to be like 6 of 8, something like that. Like a typical just like Clay bananas. Because if you just think how much more pressure that puts, like when you already have to have your entire defense predicated on Steph, dedicated to Steph. If you have someone like Clay, he makes 4 3-pointers in the first half, maybe, like that's going to make your defense on Steph just even more concerning, knowing that you can't leave him open. So I think it's got to be Clay for them to have a chance. And then the rest of the team, turnovers. I think it's a stupid question or stupid thing to say, like obvious, but they had 6 turnovers in game 5, and that 12 turnover difference was the game. Because how many times have we watched the Warriors offense and just like, what are you guys doing with these turnovers?
Yeah, and to get back to Klay Thompson, I think people who've been really like dogging him, saying he's been pretty absent for a lot of the games this series. Look, part of it is just the reality of the Celtics guys, right? It's the Celtics defense. Because look, if you rewind, let's go back to the earlier series in the Western Conference. How many times when Clay knows that he has a mismatch, whether it was Tyus Jones on the Grizzlies or whoever, like you see him automatically go into the post and he demands the ball. Like he demands it, saying, I have a mismatch. But you're just not going to find that for him in this series, right? Just with the length and the strength and the size of the Celtics, he's not going to get those cheap buckets this time around. So to be a critic, can he be a little bit more active in trying to find some of those mid-range shots in some of the seams? Trying to cut to the rim a little bit more, like, yeah, sure, but it's easier said than done, versus the Celtics, in my opinion. So part of it, I think, has to do with the fact that he's not going to get those easier mismatches that we've seen in some of the prior series in the Western Conference that unfortunately he is somewhat going to live and die. And his game is going to be, made or broken based off are his outside shots falling, because he's just not going to get a lot of those cheap ones this series like you saw in some of the other ones where he could literally back someone down for one of those off the glass type of post up moves, and he's just not going to find those in this series, and he hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics' worst defender who plays legitimate minutes is Derek White, who is a plus defender. Like that just shows how good the Celtics defense is. So yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. It's he's going to have to make like 2 or 3 tough contested, like heavily contested 3-pointers, and then like that just changes the whole dynamic, the whole calculus of the Warriors offense if you have Clay doing that.
Yeah. All right, guys. So let's move on to best bets so we can save some time so we could talk through these, give our rationale, see what your guys' thoughts are. So let's talk bets, guys. So as we're firing off some of ours, talking about some of them, why don't you guys share some of yours or share some of the ones you like or maybe on the fence about? We'll kind of chat about it together in the comments section. So I'll kick it off. If you've been following this show or following me on Twitter, I love this angle. I love betting on desperation. I love betting. I love betting on desperation. So this is why I'm going kind of Celtics heavy tonight, guys. We just know. Look, I mean, Matt gave you the numbers for last game where most of the starters, at least the key ones, logged almost the entire game, basically. So I'm expecting either the same or even more minutes tonight, right? Barring some kind of injury or something. So first one I'm going to roll with on the Celtics side for props is Jaylen Brown. You can still find this line. It's fluctuating by 1 point or so, but on FanDuel, I think it is still over 23.5 points. I caught it around minus 118. It might be 122 the last time I checked, but I am going to take Jaylen Brown over 23.5 points. If you don't like the juice, I actually don't think it's a bad play if you want to take the alternative on some of the lines like DraftKings at over 24.5 at plus money. So either way, I wouldn't play it past 24.5 in my opinion, because I think that's asking for a pretty big game from him. But I like him. Obviously, it's like do or die. It's like pick him versus Tatum. The reason I'm going to roll with him is that they're at home. I think we've just seen Jaylen Brown has been more consistent. Over the Eastern Conference Finals here and the finals here, he's been pretty decent, and I would say more consistent in putting his head down. So they're at home. I'm hoping they're going to get a friendly whistle and he's going to get to the line. And we've seen he's been a bit more aggressive in terms of just putting his head down and getting to the free throw line a bit more, in my opinion. So I'm hoping he's going to get a handful of cheap free throws. He knocks down a couple threes and, a couple of his mid-range shots. So I am going to roll with Jaylen Brown over 23.5 points as my first prop.
I like that. I took that in a one of those risk-free same game parlays on DraftKings. I bought him up a point to 24.5. I got that plus 120. I think I agree with everything you said. I mean, he's had like some really high profile, awesome quarters. Game 4 of game 1, quarter 1 of games 2 and 3, and then that third quarter in game 5, that insane run from the Celtics. That was all like the beginning of that was Jaylen Brown. So I agree with you. I love that one. I think that's great. The 2 player props that I picked, 2 rebound props. Number 1 was Robert Williams over 8.5 rebounds.
Yes.
So this one I took early in the week. I took on Tuesday. The news about his knee made me a little nervous. So I got it at plus 115. I'm sure you could probably get better odds now, maybe.
No. I think you see it right now. It's like plus 110. So you were smart in it. Even with the questionable status, people are still more money still coming in on that. So
nice. Okay. Well, so my logic there is he's probably like, aside from Tatum and Brown, like I think he's their third most important player because on defense, he can protect the rim as better than anybody on the Celtics. He's also the best at guarding the Steph Curry high pick and rolls. You saw this a lot in game 5, where even though Steph had a couple feet of space, if it's Horford, he's launching. If it's Grant Williams, he's launching. If it's Robert Williams, he's a little more hesitant because Robert Williams has a 7'6" wingspan and he has the highest and the quickest vertical on the Celtics. So they need him on offense or on defense. On offense, this was more so I feel like it didn't happen a ton in game 5, but how many just monster offensive rebounds have you seen Robert Williams get? You know what I mean? So I feel like in terms of importance, he's right there up with the most important players on the Celtics, just from what he could do, just the dirty work. this prop has hit in 2 of the last 3 games. The only game it didn't hit, which was last game, he had exactly 8 rebounds. So he's trending over that amount. His minutes, like, it's no surprise that as he's getting more rebounds, it's because his minute total is going up.
Yep.
Prior to game, it was 3. He was only playing like mid-20s at the most, 26 minutes at the most. Now he's hovering around 30 minutes. So hopefully maybe getting 2 days off, he can get, from 30 to 32, 33. So that's my first one. My second player prop is another rebound one, is Andrew Wiggins, 7.5. I don't love the juice, -120. But I mean, we talked about it. He's had double-digit rebounds in back-to-back games. Because he's really he's the only guy who can hang athletically on the Warriors with the Celtics. He's just been responsible for some monster defensive rebounds, and he's also able to get some offensive rebounds as well. So getting him over 7.5 again. I don't love the juice at -120, but I thought that was pretty good. Just getting that stat in general over 7.5, I thought was pretty good. So those are my 2 player props.
Gotcha. So I also am playing, and we didn't plan this out, but I also chose Robert Williams over 8.5 rebounds.
There you go.
That was my second prop, and all the same reason. So I think everyone is and rightly so. I mean, everyone's concerned about the knee. I get it, but just like Matt was saying, that was what I kind of honed in on. His minutes are going up; they're not going the opposite way, right? You would think naturally his knee's been bothering him. He's going to have the same level of minutes or declining. He's actually been getting more and more. As the series has been progressing. So the extra rest, and please look, I feel more confident in the Jaylen Brown one, but if this one, I would say keep an eye on the news, closer to tip off. And if he's a go, I'm a go. This is a gamble, but I'm in on the plus money gamble. Cause look, if he's a go and he's going to get even the same or more minutes in a must win, I could even see him getting, 10 plus. Okay. So I would not be shocked if he could produce that. So I think this is a bit of a gamble on his health, but if he can just get the minutes, I think this is a solid value play. So that's why I was in on that even before I knew that Matt was on this as well. So it looks like we're both in on the Robert Williams. So my next one is a little bit of it's a 2-leg high risk parlay.
I like it. I like it.
So I'm already on Jaylen Brown. So the biggest X factor here is Steph going to go off for another 30 something points. Okay. So who knows? So that could just ruin it right there. But because I am riding on the Celtics saying that they're going to play desperate tonight, I am going to parlay, and I'm going to doubly screw myself here if Williams doesn't get a lot of boards. If you go on DraftKings, you can bet on who's going to be the leader in each of those categories, right? So I'm going to parlay Jason Tatum to be leading scorer with Robert Williams to be the leading rebounder.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
And obviously there's a chance maybe I could get both, right? I mean, Jaylen Brown could get over 23.5 and maybe Tatum outscores him, right? So, but again, the X factor is going to be Steph. So Tatum's leading scorer, Robert Williams leading rebounder combined as a 2-leg game leaders parlay is plus 1,317, 1,317. So I put $38 to win $500 profit. So to return $538. So $38 on Tatum leading scorer, Robert Williams leading rebounder at plus 1,317 on DraftKings.
I like that. I think that's good. Though I say I have the most concern about Robert Williams rebounds because
Looney could beat him, Wiggins could beat him. I think there's just more outs, unfortunately, to screw that leg. I feel like so. Exactly.
The Tatum one I love. I mean, I parlayed both Tatum and Brown to score 25 points, which the odds weren't like incredible. It was plus two something. What's it? I have it right up here. It was plus 205. So it wasn't like insane value, but both scoring 25 points. I thought was good.
Gotcha. All right. What else you got? Any other bets for tonight?
Yeah. So those are my 2 player props. The next one. So my favorite bet I took all for this game was the Celtics first half spread. I sold some points. I got it at -4.5. plus 135 odds on BetMGM. Logic here, the 2 home games they've had, they covered this spread. They were up 1 game. Game 3, they are up by 12 at halftime. Game 4, they are up by 5 at halftime. So that one barely hit, but it did hit. I think the most likely scenario, even in a Celtics loss, is the patented Warriors third quarter run. So the Celtics are up by 7 at halftime.
Sure.
the Warriors outscore the Celtics by 10 in the third quarter, and then it's anyone's game in the fourth. I think that's the most likely scenario, almost regardless of what happens. So that one I put the full 5-unit McSlam on the Celtics first half spread -4.5.
So it's okay. Interesting. So yeah, so basically I had somehow, I don't know how, but we have the same bet. So I trusted the Celtics for 1/2. So
Yeah.
It didn't work out last game because the Celtics actually won the third quarter.
That was weird. We were texting about that.
I know. I'm glad we didn't. I didn't post it for my followers, but I was texting you, and then of course that's the game where the Celtics dominate the third quarter. But I for all the same reasons you said, and for me it's like, man, I don't know. This is a tough game to call, but I feel like if anything, I'll trust the Celtics for 1/2 of basketball, and I will trust them to come out high energy, give it all they have, all cylinders firing, and I will trust them for 1/2 of basketball and to cover a spread in the first half. So that's why I also took that as well, for basically all the same similar reasons and all those just intangibles that you really can't back up with stats. Is just that they're playing desperately, basically.
Yeah. So I mean, and we've talked about Jaylen Brown starting hot. We've talked about Tatum starting hot. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if both Tatum and Brown scored like 10 points in the first quarter, they both had like 17 at halftime or something, like I mean, I don't know if books are giving like first quarter points, but I would take the over on both Tatum and Brown, especially Brown.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. That's been a very, trendy, popular thing on social media. So give me a second here. But if you go on DraftKings especially, they have first quarter and first half props. If you go to so let me since we're on the topic right now, let me pull it up as we're talking. So if you go into the game and you go to player props, there's a section called player specials. So why don't we read a few off, for people here. So here's an example. If you want to get spicy here, they have first half and first quarter listed at the moment. So right now, this is pure degeneracy, but I'm just for transparency, since we're on the topic, I did sprinkle, $30 on, which I probably have just lost. That's probably gone. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, 3-3-pointers each in the first half, plus 3,000. So that's an example of what I'm talking about, where you can bet some of these even combined player first quarter, first half bets. Like a very popular one that's been around for a while. People have been betting Curry and Tatum points in the first quarter. I don't even know. So here's an example. Steph Curry and Jason Tatum, 10 points each in the first quarter, plus 950. That's been a pretty popular one people have been doing. I think that's gone 2 and maybe 2 and 3, I think. So yeah, it's not like some lock or anything, but people have been riding that because obviously if you're getting those odds and you hit it a couple times, right? I mean, that's all you really need. So but you can go browse. So if people are interested in some of these player combo first quarter, first half, combined props, they have them on DraftKings in the player special section.
I like that. So does FanDuel has that too. If you go to FanDuel and you click on a specific first quarter, you can see individual. They don't have as many, but they have individual stats, or mostly only points. But in the first quarter,
I think DraftKings has a few more selections with cross team combos or something.
Yeah.
So
that is pure degeneracy, but I do like it.
Yeah. So, but that's all I had. So like I said, just to summarize, I was on Jaylen Brown over 23.5, Robert Williams over 8.5 rebounds. Both Matt and I were on that together. I'm taking Tatum game leader scorer and Robert Williams game leader scorer. And then, like I said, for the degenerates out there, I'm banking on 3-3-pointers each for Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, hoping that even if it's through volume shooting, that they hopefully knock those down in the first half.
I like it. So my player props, I had both Wiggins and Robert Williams over rebounds. And then my favorite game prop was Celtics first half spread -4.5.
Yep. And I was riding that as well. So it looks like we're on a couple similar ones. So it looks like we are kind of Celtics heavy on this one. So hopefully the Celtics don't have a fart on offense tonight, guys.
Yeah. I mean, a Warriors win in a Celtics good offensive game, I think we're sitting pretty.
Yeah, that to me, that would be the best case scenario. I
Yeah.
would love an offensive explosion on both teams, and somehow the Warriors eking out a full game victory, but a Celtics first half cover. So
Exactly. That would be great. That would
the
be
dream,
great.
the dream scenario for the OddsJam team here on
Yeah.
Sweat
I
the
love
Bet.
I love when this happens and like it's the fourth quarter and you need like 7 different stats. You have like you become like a perfect mind, like running all these simulations in your head. Like, okay, so the Warriors miss, Robert Williams gets the rebound, then pass it to Jaylen Brown, who shoots a 3. Like you go through these like simulations and become like a perfect mind of like, how can every single 7 pending bet that I have hit with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter?
Oh yeah, and I also have desperation scenarios that play out, saying, but maybe he could foul him and he'll get a couple free throws and he'll get an offensive rebound and he'll get fouled again and he'll get 4 points in 5 seconds.
It's like, but I have the under, so like nobody else can score. It's a dream. It's the dream.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. So, any other last thoughts, Matt, before we start wrapping things up for this episode?
No, I mean, we have the possibility of it being the last basketball game of the season. Then we'll just have to start with some off-season content. I think we'll probably have to have like a hot takes episode, something like that for what happens in the off season. But no, I mean, it's been fun. I'm glad we were able to do the podcast towards like the back half of the year. And if it is our last game, it's been great riding with you this season.
Yeah, no, and whether it's this game versus a game 7, like Matt said, we're still gonna have plenty to talk about, guys. We're gonna be already starting to talk about NFL, ramping up for the NFL season to begin, off-season trades and all the trade rumors for NBA, and we're still going to be firing off some of our best bets for other sports like baseball, UFC, etc. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining in, and again, check out oddsjam.com. Follow both Matt and I on Twitter, and follow OddsJam on Twitter. And let's DM and tweet each other later tonight to see what happens in this pivotal, potentially series-ending Game 6, guys. So good luck, Celtics in the first half, Celtics offense, and a Golden State win. Let's go, guys. Thanks for joining in.
All right. Have a good one.